will never fall short of obtaining the inherent right of the Iranian nation to have peaceful nuclear energy.
Outrage at the UN General Assembly. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi addressing the annual meeting, also offering a very thinly veiled threat to Americans regarding the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani. Iran's aggression protested outside UN headquarters this week. This as the Biden administration, as I was just noting, handed the regime another $6 billion in additional resources. Joining us now to discuss a deal that imperils every American abroad, foreign policy expert Harry Lippman. Also joining us, Newsmax foreign policy analyst, Transatlantic Parliamentary Group secretary, and also the author of Iran, an Imperialist Republic and U.S. Policy, Walid Phares. Walid, you know, when it comes to that threat, Raisi had this to say. He said, quote, "The Islamic Republic of Iran, through all tools and capacities in order to bring to justice the perpetrators and all those who had a hand in this government-sanctioned act of terror, will not sit until that is done. The blood of the oppressed will not be forgotten." As I mentioned in my monologue, Biden just gave these folks another $6 billion. Your reaction to the deal and what it means for our national security?
Thank you, Tom. First, I congratulate you for your introduction. It should be given as a briefing to Congress. It was full, what you've said right now. This deal is another major strategic mistake by the administration, as was the original mother deal in 2015 by the previous Obama administration. We are giving money. Yes, it's not our money. People need to understand that. But it's not the mullah's money. It's not the regime's money. It's the people's money. So if we have to give it to somebody, it should be the opposition. What will the regime do? And you just mentioned this very clearly. They would actually spend that money, number one, on their arms and weapons and missiles. Everything that they would use against us, they will be spending it from the money we send them. But as you just said as well, they will fund the militias across the region. And thirdly, and that's of great concern to me, they will spend it on media. They will spend it on lobbying in the West, should it be in Europe or here. And that would bring them the next billions.
Yeah. Harley, 5 American hostages held in an Iranian prison. They're back on American soil. We're certainly happy for them. But the Iranians exchanged took years to apprehend. They were held by the U.S. for attempting to source technology and components for a nuclear program, from our nuclear facilities, our nuclear programs. Does this move open the door for other hostile actors to kidnap Americans for ransom?
Of course. If you could get about $1 billion an American citizen, that's a good deal with these dictatorships and rogue nations. But what a lot of people don't realize is there are still Americans left behind bars in Iran. There are 3 of them, and many multinational citizens from other nations that are held behind bars. And one of them was actually kidnapped from Dubai. That's how terrible it is. But I think the real problem with this is that this administration is dealing with conflict management and not with conflict resolution. So what does that mean? Conflict resolution is, 1, standing with the Iranian people. That means at the UN, Biden last year spoke about the uprising in Iran and was behind the people. What did he do this year? He didn't say a word. What kind of signal is that to the Iranian people that they're being forgotten? And what kind of signal is it to the Iranian government that Americans ultimately don't care, just let time pass and they're not going to bring it up again? Also, actively enforce UN sanctions. That's very important to do. And then third, support our allies in the region. Israel, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, so they could combat Iran. So they have to go from conflict management to conflict resolution, and that's the only way you're going to resolve this conflict in the long term.
Well, that, you know, they've got 3 more, you said, so that could be another $3 billion more. That could be some more money. Just once I want to play poker with Joe Biden. I think I'd do I'd do very well. Walid, who do you think is really going to benefit the most from freeing up this money?
Well, of course, the Iran regime and all the militias in the region. And my concern is that Iran, as we all know, is supporting the efforts in Ukraine by Russia. But the other concern that I have, and Harley just mentioned this. We have no relationship with the Iranian opposition. How can that be? I mean, there are millions on the streets of Tehran and across Iran, across the world. We don't have. I mean, the president did not even meet with leaders of the opposition. I think we should have a major shift in our policy towards Iran.
The other thing is, Americans have been sort of lulled into this notion that the war on Islamic terrorism, the war on terrorism, that it's not a real thing anymore. But this money is going to go to Hamas and Hezbollah. It's going to go to the remnants of ISIS, and they have a very, very long reach. Harley, I just have about a minute left, and I want to switch gears to Zelensky. In his speech before the UN General Assembly, the Ukrainian president opted to shine a light not just on the war in Ukraine, but on climate change, interestingly enough. Watch this.
Humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives. When islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, we must act united to defeat the aggressor and focus all our capabilities and energy on addressing these challenges.
I was pretty shocked by this, Harley. If he wants House Republicans and Americans generally to support providing more aid to Ukraine, the climate change rhetoric could be a very risky pander. Your thoughts on the move on his part to include that so forcefully in his address?
Well, if I were advising Zelensky, I would say keep your eye on the ball. Your country is on the precipice of major genocide being committed by Russia, and it's being devastated by Russian attacks and bombs and drones and all kinds of terrible things that they're doing. I think probably what he was referring to was when they bombed the dams and there was flooding and it caused all kinds of damage. I hope and suspect that's what he meant. But I think he needs to make sure that the West understands that Ukraine is doing the fighting and the dying, that it only costs the United States 2.5% of our defense budget, and we've degraded the Russian military by 25 to 30%. That's a good ROI.
That's a very important point. I don't think a lot of people realize that. All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but we're certainly going to be keeping tabs on all of what's going on around the world. Harley Lippman and Waleed Phares, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.